outside of New England, no one's playing starters like at all. Good morning. Welcome to the episode of Heartfelt Radio. Appreciate you for tuning in today. This is the show that values time, so let's not waste any. From time to time, I come in here and I tell you guys about stuff that doesn't actually matter. As fans, we think it matters because we're just programmed, or we are essentially taught or advertised to in a way to believe that this matters, but it really doesn't. So growing up, I spent way too much time watching sports, I'll admit. And one of those things I spent way too much time watching was I used to believe that growing up as a football fan, I would go and watch practices. I would want to see the players talk after the practices. I would also watch every preseason game. And I wasn't just watching the preseason games to watch the first quarter or two or when the starters were actually there. I would watch the whole thing. And that's because I believed, as a football fan, being a Broncos fan and considering their Super Bowl history with guys like Terrell Davis, Shannon Sharp, guys who weren't first-round picks, guys who were low-end picks who had to make big plays in the preseason, I thought it really mattered a lot. Come to find out, it mattered less and less and less and less, and we've hit a brand new point of it mattering almost. If you could attach a negative value to it, I could argue that the preseason now matters about -2. Outside of New England, no one's playing starters like at all. You have more competition during the joint practices. The joint practices feel like you have more competition because at least you're practicing against other teams' ones. Look at the rookie quarterbacks, for example. I know we talked about them somewhat yesterday as well. Look at the rookie quarterbacks, and they're all having success. They all look really good because they're all going up against guys who are 2s and 3s and guys who won't be in the league. No offense, I didn't make the NFL either, who won't be on opening day rosters. So how do you actually evaluate that? When I used to work at the school, if I played a basketball game against the kids, I couldn't submit that to the NBA. Hey, look what I just did against a bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds. Mac Jones for New England looks great. He's playing against all backups. He should look great. Trey Lance has had moments where he looks great. He's playing against all backups. He should look great. Even is these teams that are having quarterback competitions. Jameis Winston, look what he just did on Monday night for the Saints, him and Taysom Hill. Jameis Winston should look great because he's a starting level quarterback. Even if you're a guy who, in Jameis, you could argue is in that bottom tier or that bottom third of starting quarterbacks based on previous performance, he should still beat backups because that's what you do as a starter, is you beat backups. And if you consider Jameis a backup, he's a very good backup. You can't evaluate, genuinely, you can't evaluate how good or great a guy is going to be if he's playing against competition that is unrealistic. I wouldn't judge a quarterback if he had a terrible passer rating against the best defense in the league. I also wouldn't crown him the GOAT if he had 6 touchdown passes against the worst defense in the league. You got to average it out, and you got to see, okay, what are the situations? What's the circumstance? If he's playing against a good defense, not great, and he's a good quarterback, I expect him to have a good game because that's against equal competition. Great quarterback against great defense, I could still expect him to have a great game. That's equal competition. Now, if he's a great quarterback and he's playing against a defense that is playing even greater, okay, then it is what it is. No one thinks any less of Patrick Mahomes after the Super Bowl because Tampa Bay just played a great all-time one-of-one game. No one's thinking, oh, well, now Mahomes is a bum. Oh, we figured out Mahomes. Oh, blah, 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 all this. So, yeah. The preseason, it's never really counted for a whole lot. For, if you're a sports nerd like me, you would watch it and you don't want to read into it and think, oh, well, this guy's having a good preseason, blah, blah, all this. But it matters even less now. There's just nothing to take away from this. Guys aren't playing outside of 2 or 3 teams. So you can't take much away from this preseason, which is kind of unfortunate because there usually is every year a couple of guys who do make an impact in the preseason, get signed to teams, end up having some good careers. Anderson, the receiver for the Panthers, who just got a new contract, he's a preseason warrior who's managed to make a great amount of money for himself. Robbie Anderson got a 2-year $38 million or 2-year $36 million contract, I believe. A guy like Phillip Lindsay for Denver, as a preseason warrior, came out, had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, first time ever for an undrafted player. So it's unfortunate that some of those stories won't be there because for those guys to be preseason warriors, they got to make plays against starters and guys who will be on rosters. And right now, unfortunately, a lot of the guys who are playing just aren't going to be on rosters on opening day. Transitioning from there, you got to talk about it. Teddy Bridgewater was named the Broncos starting quarterback. I was listening to other people talk about this, and it essentially became a story of, well, what does it say more about Teddy winning the job, or does it say more about Drew Lock losing the job? And I don't think it really says much about either. Now, I do think it says a lot about Vic Fangio in that Vic feels more comfortable with a team that he knows, all right, defensively, I feel like I have a top 5, top 10 defense. A team on special teams, he's like, all right, I feel like I have a good special teams. I have a good kicker. Got a good return game, coverage unit. Offensive line is going to be the best we've had in years. We have a really strong receiving core and a running game that should be improved. I just can't let my quarterback screw this up. Teddy has a history of he won't screw this up. Teddy Bridgewater came into the league and was, I believe, through his first 2 years, the most accurate passer we've ever seen. Like, he came into the league, this is early 2010s, when having a 64-65% completion percentage was still reserved for, like, the Drew Brees and Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's. And Teddy came in and was just super accurate with the Vikings. Unfortunately, had back-to-back injuries, which is the only reason why Teddy's in the situation he's in now, which is more journeyman quarterback trajectory or career versus when he came into the league where he could have been a franchise quarterback. Drew Lock definitely presents more upside for Denver, that if he were able to start and he were able to take control of it and he had a great season, that's more upside. And I did believe that that was going to be a huge factor in him determining, but Vic Fangio decided, and I'm not upset with it, I'm not mad at it, that right now Teddy Bridgewater won't lose his games, better chance to win. Is he still probably the 4th best quarterback in the division? Yeah, there's an argument for that. And I'd probably say, if you used my non-fan bias common sense, he probably is the 4th best quarterback in the division. And people tell you, oh, you can't win with the 4th best quarterback in your division. Well, you can if you have the best defense in your division, which Denver has a chance to have, and if you have other things that will elevate, like your receiving core, which you could argue is the 2nd best in the division, only to Kansas City. If you have an offensive line that you could argue is as good as anyone in your division. Denver has other parts that will allow Teddy to play Teddy's game. I kept seeing like stat projections yesterday where it's like, okay, well, if Teddy goes 25-10 or 27-9 in terms of touchdowns and interception ratio, is that enough for Denver to win? And yes, it is. Now, is it enough for them to beat Kansas City? Probably not. But unless Drew Lock's potential not only peaked, but he went above and beyond, if he had a Josh Allen level of rise, where he's going from okay to MVP level, Denver was never beating Kansas City anyway. At least with Teddy, you could argue that you could play Kansas City in a slug-it-out game, which, if you look at Kansas City's offense against Denver last year, didn't do so great. And so if Teddy can get you 24 points a game, 23, 24 points a game, that's all you're really looking for. You don't have to be one of the top 5 offenses. You don't have to be scoring 30 points a game. Then in Vic's mind, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt right now, at least to start the season, that Teddy's probably the better choice. So, Teddy Bridgewater, starting quarterback for the Broncos. Let's see what happens.